Forgot to turn my microphone on. Welcome in, guys, to this pregame stream for Denver Broncos Kansas City Chiefs on Thursday Night Football. I am your host, Gage Madrid. Hope that everybody is doing well on this evening. We are prepared to probably watch the Denver Broncos get absolutely slaughtered at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs. It's probably going to be a rough night, but we're going to be here throughout the entire evening, Broncos country, streaming the pregame, streaming the postgame, and streaming throughout the game. YouTube has been really screwing us around in terms of pushing out our game live streams. So I'll be sure to put a link to our game live stream in the chat so that way nobody misses it. We've got a few people already in the house here. We've got Neil Smith saying Denver Broncos for life. Michael Ronquillo in the house saying Broncos are playing on my birthday today. Happy birthday, Michael. Hopefully you had a good one aside from probably a rough Broncos game today, but hopefully they give you a nice birthday present and they get a dub tonight. Anything's possible. Anybody can win on any given game day in the NFL. But as we all know, the Denver Broncos have lost 15 straight games to the Kansas City Chiefs. Our last time beating the Kansas City Chiefs was week 2 of the 2015 season. That was the Bradley Roby scoop and score game on Jamal Charles. That was my sophomore year of high school. That was the last time that the Denver Broncos beat the Kansas City Chiefs. We've got Jay in the house, says Mahomes throws a pick to Surtain. I think that could be a good bet, man. I really think that the Denver Broncos might be a little bit more aggressive defensively in this game because at the end of the day, they have nothing to lose. They can't play scared in this game. They can't play like they're going to be afraid to lose because you're probably going to lose anyway. Your backs are against everybody's wall. I mean, your backs are against the wall. Everybody thinks you're going to lose, man. Everybody thinks you're going to lose. So at the end of the day, why not go out there and play balls to the walls and really try to challenge these guys? I really think that if the Denver Broncos play an aggressive brand of football and leave everything out there, they can at least keep this game close and competitive. I don't think they win tonight. I don't see a scenario where they win tonight, but I do see a scenario like many of our other previous matchups against the Kansas City Chiefs where they at least keep it close and they at least keep it competitive. We've got Garrett in the house. Good to see you. Clickbait. This is going to be rough, Antelope says. Last time the Broncos beat the Chiefs was on Thursday night in Arrowhead. That's true. That's true. I remember that night very, very well. Again, my sophomore year of high school. One of the most fun games I've ever witnessed. I just actually went back and watched the highlight reel from that game. God, our defense was cooking. Aqib Talib got a pick in that game. Chris Harris got a pick. Obviously, Bradley Roby with the scoop and score. We're going to need our defense to deliver that type of performance in terms of turnovers tonight if we have any shot in hell to win this thing. DJ says, preseason, I hope this would be my birthday present. My birthday was yesterday. I mean, that would be one hell of a birthday present, just like Michael here. Let's go out there and get a win, Broncos country, for Michael and DJ's birthday. I was only in 5th grade the last time we beat the Chiefs. Wow, that's crazy, man. That is absolutely crazy. That just goes to show the state of this franchise. I mean, we've been close to beating the Chiefs several times over the course of the last 7-8 years. I mean, the games have been close. The games have been competitive. But the Broncos have never had the teams to be able to close things out. This year, I mean, with Vance Joseph's defense surrendering 70 points to the Miami Dolphins, I feel like Andy Reid already has some of his clever plays designed and schemed up in order to take down this Denver Broncos defense. Offensively was probably our worst showing of the season. Russell Wilson had easily his worst game of the year. Our run game was once again inconsistent, especially in the second half. If the Broncos have any chance in hell of at least keeping this game competitive, they're going to have to get a sustained run game for all 4 quarters in this game. They're going to have to basically keep the Chiefs' offense off the field and in turn keep our defense off the field. That's the only way that the Denver Broncos will have any chance in hell to keep this score at least somewhat manageable. I could see the Denver Broncos very easily surrendering 42 points to the Chiefs in the first half, just like the Chicago Bears did in week 3 or whatever it was, the week before we played them. That was a historically bad performance by the Bears defense, and to this point, the Broncos defense has performed even worse than the Chicago Bears defense has. I saw a tweet, actually, that said Patrick Mahomes has never faced the league's bottom-ranked defense. Today he will. Last time Patrick Mahomes faced a Vance Joseph-led defense was last year when he was defensive coordinator of the Arizona Cardinals. And of course, Patrick Mahomes carved them up. Again, this is not a favorable matchup. This is basically David versus Goliath, man. With the way that the Denver Broncos defense has performed, I'm very scared. Travis Kelce is going to play tonight. He tweaked his ankle last Sunday against Minnesota. Ended up having to get it taped up, but he did get back into the game. He was a limited participant throughout the week in practice, but they have determined that he's going to be good to go tonight, and Taylor Swift's going to be in the house, so you know that Travis is probably going to want to show out. I'm hoping that Amazon's broadcast doesn't pan to Taylor Swift every 5 seconds. During our game stream tonight, we're going to be watching the Prime Vision Live All-22 version, so I'm hoping that maybe will spare us of the Taylor cam. We've got the traveling Texan in the house saying, gonna be brutal way she goes, #tank for Caleb. Yeah, man, it's gonna be a really, really brutal night. But we do have to at least preview how the Denver Broncos can keep this game competitive, keep it manageable, and not allow us to run away, or not allow the Chiefs to absolutely run away with an embarrassing win like the Miami Dolphins did. We have to figure out a way to keep this game from not getting to 70-20 proportions of bad. Wild D says it's about the friends we made along the way, right? Absolutely, man. That's part of it. I'm not doing well right now, but the best part about this whole community is getting to interact with Broncos fans and fellow members of Broncos country. It's just one of the many benefits of being a YouTuber, man. Getting to hear all kinds of different opinions from all different parts of the world, not just in Colorado and not just in the United States. I've had plenty of fans say that they're from all different types of countries throughout the world. So this community is easily the best part of doing this. It sucks where our team is right now, but again, man, I wouldn't trade any of this for the world. Antelope says, my Twitter timeline has just been pure Caleb Williams tweets. All right, so I still am in the opinion that the Broncos probably aren't going to lose enough games to get Caleb Williams. Losing to the Chicago Bears definitely hurt our chances at getting Caleb Williams. Right now, they have both the number 1 and the number 2 overall pick. So, Carolina obviously is doing terrible, and the Chicago Bears have their first overall, or have their pick, their first round draft pick, and they have their own pick as well. I feel like one of those teams is probably going to end up there. I can see the Broncos getting a couple of those fluky, weird wins. You know how it goes, man. I want us to get Caleb Williams. Don't get me wrong. Caleb Williams in the orange and blue would absolutely change the direction of our franchise. But at the same time, I'm a realist, and I also can see that the Broncos probably aren't going to get Caleb. They could be in a position to get somebody like a Shedeur Sanders if he comes out, maybe a Drake May, a Michael Penix Jr., guys like that. You know, those are realistic quarterback options for the Denver Broncos. Then we could start having conversations about maybe Russell Wilson restructuring his contract in order to maybe stay around through the transitionary period, kind of like Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes. Because again, Russell Wilson is playing well enough for the Denver Broncos to keep him around. He's not playing well enough to justify the $250 million contract, but he is playing well enough for the Denver Broncos to at least entertain going to Russ and saying, hey, we really want to keep you here, but we also need you to recognize that we have to rebuild around you at the same time and restock the cupboard. Maybe Russ would be willing to slash some of his salary or put a couple of void years on his deal, backload the money. The Broncos do have the cash-rich ownership where they could potentially entertain that possibility at least. We got Daniel saying, why people want us to take, didn't we start 1-4 with Tim Tebow and end up winning a playoff game? At the end of the day, this team is at a much different spot than where they were with Tim Tebow. We had a nucleus that we could at least build off of. I was only 11 years old at that time, so I don't remember exactly every single detail from that season, but I do remember that our defense kept us in games during that season, and then obviously Tim Tebow made magic happen in the fourth quarter. The Broncos had an established offensive line. We already had some weapons in the building, obviously, with DT, Eric Decker, guys like that. So the Broncos had a nucleus that they could at least build off of in that 1-4 start to 2011. I don't necessarily feel like we have that nucleus right now. We literally have the worst defense per DVOA in modern Super Bowl NFL history. Literally, it's that bad. So we just don't have the necessary personnel on that side of the ball. The Broncos have to embrace just where they are right now and tear down those resources. But at the same time, these next few games are going to be all about determining who's going to be a part of that moving forward. Obviously, we've determined two guys already that are not going to be a part of it. Randy Gregory, who was shipped out of town last week, and now Frank Clark, who restructured his contract, and the Denver Broncos are going to move on from Frank Clark, either through a trade or a release. I'm curious to see if maybe someone's going to do like a late round pick swap, kind of like what we did with Randy Gregory, in order to get Frank Clark. Personally, I think the Broncos are just going to have to outright cut him, but Frank Clark did help us facilitate that by giving back over $1.5 million in his guaranteed money. So that knocked his salary down, his base salary, to the veteran minimum, which is going to make it really, really easy for the Denver Broncos to move on from him. We got Von Miller in the house. Hope you are doing well, my friend. Good to see you. Good to see you. He says, screw Caleb Williams. Let's get Marvin Harrison Jr. I think we could indeed have a realistic conversation about that, Broncos country. Marvin Harrison Jr. in the orange and blue is a realistic option. I really do think it is. The Broncos haven't had that true alpha number one receiver since prime Demaryius Thomas. And with Marvin Harrison Jr., he seems to be the best wide receiver in this class. I haven't scouted yet, but based on every article I've read to this point, he seems to be the consensus number one receiver. He could give us that true alpha number one option. Jerry Jeudy, there are rumors surrounding Jerry Jeudy potentially getting traded. A report came out from NFL insider Matt Lombardo, so he could be on his way out the door. If that's the case, keep an eye out on Marvin Harrison Jr. potentially coming to the Denver Broncos, especially if we end up in like that number 3 overall pick range. I could see the Chicago Bears, for example, taking Caleb Williams at number 1. They may well take Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 2, though. The Broncos might have to offer a little bit of a pretty penny to come up one spot, but keep an eye on that as a possibility for sure. Antelope says this could be some player's last game as a Bronco. It could. You think of guys like Jerry Jeudy, maybe even a Justin Simmons, Cortland Sutton, those are guys you think of. This could be some guy's last game as a Bronco. That is very true, Antelope. Michael says, hope for a Broncos win on my birthday. Me too, bro. Me too. That would be awesome. I know that it would just inject so much energy just in this fan base, even if it's temporary. Let's be honest, if we beat the Chiefs tonight, that would basically be our Super Bowl this year. That would literally be like our biggest win of the year. If we beat the Chiefs tonight, I know I will absolutely go and get that monkey off our back and say that we've no longer lost all these games in a row to the Chiefs. If we can just get that monkey off our back, that would literally Super Bowl, at least for me. We got Jess in the house. Welcome in. Saying happy birthday to Michael. Good to see you, Jess. One of our mods, one of our greatest supporters here on the channel. And yes, let's give a little salute to Frank Clark and his 2 tackles that he contributed to the Denver Broncos. I gotta be honest, man. I'm a little surprised that this didn't happen at the end of training camp. I mean, he was terrible in camp. He ended up playing pretty deep into that second preseason game against the San Francisco 49ers. That ended up being a pretty significant clue as to where he sat with the team, because he was named as the 3rd string edge rusher behind Jonathan Cooper and Randy Gregory. Eventually, Nick Benito rose above both him and Gregory. Now both him and Gregory are no longer Denver Broncos in effect. So, yeah, man, that was one of the biggest busts of the offseason. That's a blemish not only on George Payton, but on Sean Payton as well, man. At the end of the day, Sean Payton had pretty heavy influence over the guys that were brought in this offseason. George Payton had his say as well, and ultimately he was the one that went out and purchased the groceries. But Sean gave him a list of guys that he wanted him to go out there and get, and Frank Clark was one of them. So that's a blemish on Sean if we look at it really at the end of the day. Antelope says, it'd be kind of cool if we had Marvin Mims, or if we had two Marvins, Mims and Harrison Jr. Yeah, that would be cool, man. And obviously, Peyton Manning is here in Denver, and he had that connection with Marvin's dad. So there could potentially be a little bit of a mentorship there between Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison Jr. Vaughn Miller says Jerry Jeudy has not proven himself in the NFL. That's my opinion, at least. Too frail. Agreed. He hasn't proven himself. And he's kind of developed a reputation as a soft player, a guy who gets alligator arms, a guy who's not going to go up and catch that 50-50 ball. That's kind of the reputation that Jerry Jeudy has made for himself in the NFL. So that will probably significantly hurt his trade value. But I've also heard that the Broncos might not move Jerry Jeudy if the trade value for him is too low. I feel like the Broncos are really going to try to want to eke out at least a second-round pick, maybe even a low first-round pick if there's some team out there that feels like they're a Jerry Jeudy away from being a competitive team, or maybe a second and a third-round pick, something like that. They're going to really try to eke that out. If they can't get it, then they may just stick with Jerry Jeudy. They have him under contract for one more year. Why move him if you're not going to be moving him at the end of the day? Thank you so much, Bobby. Really appreciate you. Antelope says, if we beat the Chiefs, celebrate as if we won the Super Bowl. I'm definitely going to celebrate that way too, man. I really am. That would be such a good feeling to just finally get that stupid monkey off our back. Finally say we've got one on the board against Patrick Mahomes. It would be more relieving than anything else. It would feel so good. It really would. Jess says, we've been so close to beating Kansas City a bunch of times. Any given Thursday. Absolutely. That's exactly what I was saying. Anything can happen on any given Thursday. What the Broncos are going to have to do, if they want to at least keep this game close and maybe even have that 1% chance of winning the game. I mean, it's just like the famous Jim Carrey meme from Dumb and Dumber. So you're telling me there's a chance. There is a tiny micro chance that the Broncos could win this game. What it's going to have to entail is running the football like crazy. Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin are basically both going to have career nights. We're going to have to go on long, sustained drives on offense and keep our defense off the field and keep Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce off the field. We're going to have to try to stop the run. The Broncos did promote Tyler Lancaster. Greg Dulcich is going to be back for this game. Little Jordan Humphrey was also called up from the practice squad, so those will be our reinforcements. Hopefully Lancaster can help a little bit in the run defense, especially without having DJ Jones, who has been ruled out for this game. So that's going to be a key, is again going on those long sustained drives, running the football, keeping Patrick Mahomes off the field, and capitalizing on the Chiefs' mistakes. If the Chiefs turn the football over, the Broncos are going to have to basically call up a shot play and immediately attack them if they turn the football over. If Pat Surtain can get a pick on Patrick Mahomes, or we can force a couple of fumbles, we have to get on those fumbles and be alert. Our defense forced a couple fumbles last week. We had a couple fumbles in that Jets game. They just didn't go our way, and that was a big, unfortunate mishap for the Denver Broncos. We need those turnovers and those mistakes to go our way, especially because you know that the refs are probably going to pull some BS in order to help the Kansas City Chiefs. We saw it last year when we played them, when that stupid BS pass interference call on Cortland Sutton. We've seen some of the same crap earlier on this season. The Jets game, the Vikings game. The refs have kind of helped bail out the Chiefs a little bit, and I don't normally like saying that, but that's kind of what has happened at the end of the day. So we have to be able to take advantage of any of the opportunities and any of the breaks that come our way, and it's going to take a couple of those fluky plays to go our way in order for us to potentially be close to winning this game or win it in general. But we all know that historically that luck has not favored the Denver Broncos over the past 8 years. Human Person says Jerry Jeudy needs to go while he has any trade value. Broncos need to start scoring from the get-go, Daniel says. We can't keep going 3 and out this game to have a chance. I agree, and that's why I feel like the Broncos are going to have to go for some fourth downs in long yardage situations. Steal possessions from the Chiefs. Why be afraid to go for it on fourth down and long? F it. Your season's probably over anyway. Why play scared? Go for it on fourth down. What do you have to lose? You literally have nothing to lose. And to quote the famous Janis Joplin song, Bobby McGee, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Little reference there from the Orange and Blue Today show. Shout out Cecil and Mace. But that's kind of where the Denver Broncos are right now. They have nothing left to lose, and they have to go out there and play desperate. That's what they have to do. Greg Dulcich is back. Yes, he is. We need Javonte Williams to replicate what he did in 2021 at Arrowhead. Absolutely. Absolutely. That was a big game for Pookie, if I remember correctly. So that's a big one for sure. Yep. Sucks the Broncos wide receivers aren't getting open, DJ says, but that's a reflection of very poor offensive line. Russ has most definitely played well, and he's playing above that line's performance. He most definitely is. He did have a couple of negative plays, a few negatively graded plays, especially in that Jets game, but overall, on the season, right above my expectations for him this year, and probably above everyone else's expectations as well. I have virtually no qualms with how Russell Wilson has played. Again, the Jets game was probably his worst game of this season, but on the whole, I have no qualms with how Russell Wilson has played whatsoever. On a side note, Daniel says, I can just imagine all the Swifties burning Kelsey's jersey as soon as him and Taylor Swift break up. That's going to be funny. That is going to be funny. Jess says, I think this game is up to our offensive line and run defense. I'd like to see our wide receivers get involved. How come I only hear about our run game getting how come I only hear about getting our run game going? Educate me, please. So, with the run game, it's just going to be able to sustain drives, take time off the clock. We want to go on 7, 8, 9, 10-minute drives even. And in order to do that, you have to run the football. You're naturally just going to bleed more clock when you run the football. And I feel like, especially in the second half, we've struggled to sustain the run game. The run games looked good for the Broncos in the first half, but it hasn't looked so good in the second half. So, don't get me wrong, when we get that run game going, that's when we're going to be able to get our play action game going, and we all know that that's when Russell Wilson is at his best, is when he's able to get into the play action game, roll out of the pocket, do Russ things, basically. That's what Russell Wilson is known for throughout his career, and if defenses don't respect your run game, then you're not going to be able to get the play action going. That's on Sean Payton as a play caller, and that's also on just the whole offense in general to make those necessary adjustments when defenses are bringing an extra guy down to help in the run game. That's when you dial up those play action shots to guys like Marvin Mims. So it's all about finding that balance, and getting the run game going is what's going to help our entire offense get going, and that includes production from our wide receivers, especially guys like Marvin Mims, who's really thrived for the Broncos on those deep play action shot plays, and we all know that that is what Russell Wilson does best. Hope Benito gets pressure. Yes, I agree on fourth down tries. Nothing to lose. Absolute. The Freedom quote was great. Yeah, I can't take credit for that one. I can't remember if that was Andrew Mason or Cecil Lemon. I think it was Andrew Mason in the 104.3 The Fan in the Orange and Blue Today show. That's one of their best productions out there. Absolutely love the work that Cease and Mace do over there. But yeah, I can't take credit for that one. But that's where the Broncos are going to have to be at the end of the day. They're going to have to play desperate and just play with nothing left to lose, man. That's where you are. Because, again, the Chiefs, I feel like the Chiefs are almost going to overlook the Broncos a little bit in this game. This is going to be a game where the Chiefs are not going to respect their opponent. They're going to view this as basically an easy win for them, a walk in the park, almost like an early bye week for them. I hate that. And that's what the message needs to be in the Denver Broncos locker room. We have to make the Chiefs respect us as a tough opponent. We have to make the Chiefs show some respect and not be able to overlook us. And that's what they're doing right now. They are overlooking us. I bet you every single player in that Chiefs locker room right now is like, oh man, this is going to be an easy win for us tonight. This game is going to be a walk in the park. And the Broncos, based on what they've put on tape over the first 5 weeks, it pretty much is going to be an easy win and a walk in the park. It's up to the Denver Broncos to change that narrative and change the tone surrounding what brand of football they play. They have to play physical, kick your ass, bully ball up front. That's what they have to do. And if they can't maul you up front, they have no chance at winning this game. This game has to be won in the trenches. We've got to run it down their throat and physically pound those bastards into submission. Sorry, did not mean to swear there, but we have to physically pound those guys into submission, man. That's what we have to do. They're cocky. They are cocky. I'm quoting that from Tim Patrick, man. They're cocky little you-know-whats. And I want the Denver Broncos to physically go in there and kick them in the teeth. Jess says, I'm wondering if the opposite could happen. Getting the passing game going could start getting them open for the run game. I mean, that definitely could happen too, but that's kind of feel like the philosophy that the Denver Broncos have had, especially in the last 2 weeks, and it hasn't really been to their benefit. Again, man, this game is won and lost in the trenches, and if you can't consistently and sustainably run the football and in turn defend the run, then you are going to consistently lose games. I mean, it's been the same narrative for the Denver Broncos in pretty much every game that we've played. I mean, it wasn't exactly the passing game where the Miami Dolphins really destroyed us. It was in the run game. So that's where, again, on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, we've got to run the ball and go on these long sustained drives. For us offensively and defensively, we have to prevent the Chiefs from being able to do that. We've seen the Chiefs, they're able to both score quickly as well as go on these long, sustained ground and pound drives with guys like Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon, even Clyde Edwards-Helaire sprinkled in there a little bit. So that's kind of what I feel like is going to be the big key there. Robert says, I want the ball first, and on passing, I want quick succinct throws, none of the 4-second capture the flag version since receivers gave up after they run their routes. So again, what you're saying basically is try to get the quick game going. And I love your point there about getting the ball first. In every single game this year, all 5 games, the Denver Broncos have won the toss. They've elected to defer. And I'm pretty certain in every single game, the team has come out flat in the second half when they've gotten the ball back. I'd much rather them get the ball first, go up by 7 points early, and again, go on a 7, 8, 9-minute drive where you're running the ball down the Chiefs' throat and keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. The best way to prevent Amazon from flashing to the Taylor cam is by keeping Travis off the field. So that's going to be the key, man, is just go on these long sustained drives. And if we win the toss, I really hope that the Denver Broncos get the football. I'm low-key hoping that the Chiefs win the toss so that way they can defer and Denver gets the ball first. I want the Denver Broncos to get the ball first. So I'm hoping, honestly, that the Chiefs win the toss and that they defer. So that way Sean Payton can't screw up that decision anymore. Vaughn says, we couldn't even tackle a freaking tumbleweed going across the road right now. Seems like those guys don't want to play for Vance Joseph. I mean, it's not just they don't want to play for Vance Joseph. It's clear that just the effort and the communication are not there. I've spoken with a prominent former Denver Broncos player. I got to speak with him for a few minutes before the Jets game started. And he explained that firing Vance Joseph is not going to change much of the woes for the Denver Broncos on defense. This is poor communication between several veteran players, Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons, Alex Singleton, Josie Jewell. It's bad communication, bad tackling, and that starts with just not having the mental willpower to go in there and make the tackle. That's what it is at the end of the day. It's mental. You've got to have that physical, I'm going to kick you in the teeth mentality on every single play. And Our defense doesn't have it. They don't have that physical lay the wood approach. So, because of that, man, at the end of the day, firing Vance Joseph, it'll maybe give the Denver Broncos a little bit of invigoration in the short term, but this season, in the long term, it won't do a whole lot. Vance Joseph is going to be gone at the end of the year. Trust me, he is going to be gone at the end of this season. But we're pretty much stuck with him until the end of the year because there's really no better options. We look at this poor communication in the secondary, and I'm putting that on Christian Parker. He's the secondary coach. He's in charge of making sure that everybody in the secondary is on the same page and that these bad communication errors do not happen. And this is coming from guys like Kareem Jackson, our longest tenured NFL player on our team, the guy who shouldn't be having these communication errors. He was basically allowing Delarian Turner-Yell to go rogue out there because he wasn't making sure that they were both on the same page. That's a big problem. And I'm putting that on coaching, and that's on Christian Parker because he is the DB's coach. I don't know what that would translate to on the rest of the field for the defense, on the other position groups, when we're already seeing bad communication. And it's on the D-line too. Marcus Dixon, the D-line coach, definitely is not free of blame here. I mean, we saw the Denver Broncos have bad communication on the Breece Hall touchdown run where Sean Payton said they were a gap wrong, and that's bad communication. That's on Marcus Dixon, the D-line coach. Vance Joseph is not free of blame here. Don't get me wrong, Vance Joseph harbors majority of the blame, but firing Vance Joseph is not going to solve the issue between the lack of talent, the injuries on the defensive side of the ball, and just the overall crappy effort and crappy communication. That's not going to change. It even was that was even the case statistically last year under Ejiro Evero for the final portion of the season. So that's just where the Denver Broncos are right now. It sucks, but again, firing Vance Joseph is only going to do so much. Vaughn says, I got a feeling the Chiefs are going to run like crazy tonight because our defense can't tackle. I hope not. I hope it changes and they get better, but he ain't showed nothing in the first 5 weeks. Well, low-key, I did put a little bit of a bet on Isaiah Pacheco to have over 70 rushing yards. I did put some money on that, so that probably tells you that I would definitely agree with you on that sense. So the Broncos' run defense, it definitely has been an issue the whole season. It got even worse in that Jet game after DJ Jones got injured. He's not going to play tonight. Tyler Lancaster is expected to play in his spot at nose tackle. Mike Purcell, is Mike Purcell playing tonight? I think he is. Yeah, he's playing tonight. But still, Tyler Lancaster is going to start in that spot. Hopefully he can provide a little bit of a spark for us up front in the run defense, but it's also been poor play from our second level guys such as Alex Singleton, Josie Jewell, Drew Sanders when he's gotten that playing opportunity, secondary as well, Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons. Everybody defensively has their fingerprints on this crappy run defense. So yeah, that's a entire team effort problem on the defensive side of the ball. Jess says, I feel like Russ has been getting pressured immediately, so he ends up hot potatoing the ball to anybody in orange or running for his life or no time for anybody running plays to flesh out. I mean, that's definitely the big issue, man. Russell, guys aren't getting open by the time he hits the bottom of his drop, and by the time he hits the bottom of his drop, the offensive line is already starting to break down. So that's on Sean Payton for calling all these deep developing route concepts. That's obviously on our offensive line for just not playing up to snuff. But Russell's also had some missed opportunities, partially because, like you alluded to, he basically ends up feeling that pressure immediately, and he sometimes feels like he has to hot potato the ball, or he has to play hero ball in those situations and try to make up for the deficiencies from the rest of the team. So, yeah, that's definitely a big issue. I feel like you hit it right on the head there, Jess. Absolutely. Vaughn says they don't have the defensive line for that. Don't get me wrong. I feel like I agree with you, but if there's any day for the Denver Broncos to change the narrative, it's this one for sure. I feel like they're releasing guys that aren't showing effort. That's a good sign. Obviously, with Frank Clark and Randy Gregory, 100%. They were not showing the necessary effort, the necessary production. They were heavily paid players that were not producing at the level that they were paid at. That's why they were gone, and that is a good sign for sure, because it means that Sean Payton is really trying to predicate the culture change in this locker room. Jess says, I wonder if the players seem so out of it because the play calling is so bad. They know it won't work so hard, so that it's hard even that they even try. Is there any truth or possibility on that? That is definitely a possibility. I mean, the poor play calling definitely could lead to a lack of effort from some players, but players are going to essentially have to go out there and make the best of a bad situation. And the guys that don't have the mindset of going out there and doing that, if they're going to be gone. Those players are going to be gone if they have that negative mindset. We've seen that with guys such as Frank Clark and such as Randy Gregory. I just don't think that our players care to play their hearts out for this team anymore. I see little Jordan Humphrey, Traquan Smith, Marvin Mims, and Brandon Johnson being our starting wide receivers when we dump Court and Judy. Definitely. I definitely feel like we're obviously going to see extended roles for Marvin Mims. Traquan Smith will probably get that much-deserved promotion. Brandon Johnson, I hope that he gets more looks because he's shown a lot of promise out there. Little Jordan Humphrey, I feel like, has been our best blocking wide receiver. The Broncos have done a lot of roster gymnastics in order to keep him on the roster. He's obviously going to be playing tonight. He was waived, signed back to the practice squad, and promoted for tonight's game. So that's definitely a good sign there for little Jordan Humphrey moving forward. We'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks with Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. A lot of rumors out there surrounding Jeudy, but it wouldn't be surprising at all to see the Broncos move on from Courtland Sutton, given the fact that he's become a borderline liability out there. He had a terrible game against the New York Jets. He had a terrible game against the Miami Dolphins with 2 fumbles, although his stat line did look good. He had those 2 killer fumbles. That's become borderline liability level play from Courtland Sutton. So I feel like there's a strong chance that Courtland Sutton will get shipped out of town for a little bit lower value than what he's worth. I know the team really wants to try to maximize their value that they can get for Jerry Jeudy. If they can't get what they're hoping to get, then I feel like there's a chance Jerry Jeudy will still be here. That's according to individuals I've talked to that are in the know with what's going on at Dove Valley. They did let little Jordan go, Vaughn. They released him. They signed him back to the practice squad, and he is going to be active for this game. Russ is having to do a lot to have any opportunity to pass, always on the run. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. That's on our offensive line. That's also on Russ to an extent for not properly setting the protection. But that's not to absolve our offensive line. That's been the main issue up front and on the offensive side of the ball for the Denver Broncos has been the offensive line. Daniel says, who's most likely to get traded, Jeudy or Sutton? Probably Sutton. But again, if the offer is just right for Jerry Jeudy, then he's going to be gone 100%. Robert says Jeudy because we'd lose Sutton's size if we're trying to work Jeudy and Mims. I mean, that's also a possibility. I could see the Denver Broncos maybe bringing in another bigger-bodied wide receiver onto the practice squad. Losing Sutton's size would hurt, but he's also not really made a whole lot of those contested 50-50 balls this year that he's patented with that big size. So I feel like that size is a little bit overvalued at this point in time. Vaughn says, I think they're going to trade them both because they're going to get a lower pick in the draft and get Marvin Harrison Jr. Very possible. Vaughn says, Courtland Sutton looks really lazy at times. Sorry, there is a car alarm going off outside my apartment. Let me go shut my window real quick. Sorry, guys. There's some dude out there trying to fiddle with his car remote, and He's set off his alarm, and I don't think he's figured out how to turn it off yet. DJ says Little Jordan is a big body and he gets open. So yeah, that could be your solution there at the big bodied wide receiver spot. And Greg Dulcich as well. He was basically being utilized as a big slot receiver before he got injured, more so as a traditional Y tight end. So that could be a possibility as well. I'm curious to see what the plan is for Greg Dulcich in this game tonight. We've got Exotic. Thank you so much for the 10 bones. I really appreciate you. Helps keep the lights on here on Denver Broncos Syndicate. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, as always, Gage, delivering us updates even at work. Hey, man, got to do what you got to do. Have a great time watching tonight. Thank you so much. All right, that actually reminds me. I'm going to come over here, and I want to get the wrapping up this stream here in a couple minutes just so we can start getting ready for the game stream. What's nice about this game being on Thursday Night Football and being on Amazon is that we'll be getting to use the live all 22 with Amazon Prime Vision. We'll get to see the routes developing downfield, all that stuff. You're kidding me, dude. You are kidding me. Sorry, guys. I hope that that's not too loud. This clown outside has no clue what he's doing, screwing around with his car remote. Definitely going to be getting out the link for the stream right now because YouTube, again, has been really screwing around and has not been pushing our streams out to fellow members of Broncos country. They haven't been pushing really any small streams out lately. I feel like it has a little bit something to do with YouTube's new relationship with the NFL, obviously with NFL Sunday Ticket. Jesus Christ, man. Come on. Do you have a Cash App or a PayPal or something you can get a bigger cut? I'm gonna set up the my Streamlabs so that way I can get paid through PayPal. So yes. Is the live all 22 automatic on Prime, or do you have to select to view it somehow? So I don't know on the Prime app. I'm assuming you just scroll down and select the Prime Vision option. I watch the games on Twitch for free online. So you just go to the Prime Vision Twitch channel, and that will allow you to see the live all 22 for free. I don't want to pay for Amazon Prime if I'm only going to use it for the game. All right, guys, so there is the link to the game stream tonight. I would really appreciate it if you guys could tune in. I'm going to dip out of here and get set up for everything. Again, we'll be live here in about 30 minutes at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Game kicks off at 6:15 Mountain Standard Time. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And until next time, guys, I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.